everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you. Before I start, I'll have a very honest disclaimer. I've been going through a heartbreak recently, so the speech that I put together is in these two papers coming together today, this morning, together with my friends, as well as, conversations that I had over the last few months coming together that I'll be sharing with you guys. I hope you're down. I hope you show some mercy to me in that regard. But kicking off, I came to Brussels 5 years ago. I graduated from Energy Systems and Engineering program at Oxford University, came over to Brussels and found myself in the Brussels bubble, the political world, that I didn't know much about. What I did realize over the last 5 years, though, is how I was surrounded by brilliant people who didn't acknowledge themselves that they were brilliant. Instead, they were paralyzed by the thought structures of self-doubt, comparing themselves, imposter syndrome, and constantly thinking that they're not enough to start this passion project or to do this thing that they deeply cared about. And it honestly made me extremely sad. And yes, I was also one of them for sure. But what made me sad observing this is how amazing people who have the skills and capabilities to take active part in democracy, in society, were paralyzed by their own thought structures. It's the war that I think many of us have in our head with ourselves. But then the question is it really personal, or is it internalized frameworks of the systems that we live in that make us think to wait, to be perfect, and to not be enough? So I started asking myself, who benefits from the self-doubt? And if you think about it, it's marketing, companies who are selling you products so you're prettier, smarter, or whatever you think that is, you become the perfect customer. Politics, young people like me thinking they have no role in it because we're not competent enough, not old enough to enter the stage and represent a group of people. And if you think about it, workplaces as well. If you doubt yourself, you're not going to ask for a raise. I see that a lot in my surroundings. So the question is here, how can we move from these passive observers in all walks of life, but in particular in democracy, to active citizens? And I can tell you here right now, there is no blueprint. All of you care about completely different things. I cannot come with an action plan of this is what you need to do. But what I'll do instead is share thinking frameworks that help me and my friends to take the next leap, to think bigger and to take the chance and just try it out to find out. So, thinking frameworks on how to not fall into the trap of paralysis and inaction. Number one, cutting out the noise. News is sharing all these bad happenings and crises around the world all over. And this is not to discredit them, but to ask a question whether this reality is real. Because after all, if you look at our day-to-day, it's fine. All of us are going to the holidays. All of us have this beautiful experience here at this conference. So there's this mediated reality that is constantly telling us how the world is going into a crisis. But if you look at it, what social media and news reward is not truth, but attention. Whatever gets attention will get the stage. So instead of falling into this whole hopelessness loop that many of us, including me, have been falling into as well with one war and crisis after another, back to back, I've been thinking about, is this really true? Maybe there are some invisible action takers that don't get the stage just because it doesn't get enough, or they don't create the attention or the visibility that people click on. It's not clickbaity enough. So I've been focusing on the noisy 3%. I don't know how many guys of you are like these active commenters of social media. I'm not, and my friends are not. So who are all these haters on social media? Does it represent majority of society, or is it the noisy 3%? It's just a question to ask ourselves. Number two, dealing with the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. So I noticed a lot of people like the idea of change. But then I'm surrounded by all these idealists who don't sacrifice on their vision or of the path that they see for the world, especially in politics, what we want to take. So, what I'm wondering here is the sacrifices to idealism that we need to take in order to reach our goal. I come from a climate action perspective. I talk about clean technologies, is it solar or wind, etc. And we know like wind farms and solar, they're also when it comes to the sourcing of these materials, it's also not perfect. We're also talking about humanistic questions here. But does that mean that we shouldn't try it out to get there and figure it out on the way? Or wait until everything is perfect in order to get started? What are the sacrifices that we're willing to take to idealism? Purity versus progress. Number 3, talking about what's wrong is not doing the work. We have the most protests in history happening in these years, yet they're the least effective ones. I've been pressured a lot on social media to share certain things, but sharing a story which takes me a couple of seconds is not fulfilling my civic duty. I cannot tell myself a good conscience by either showing up at a protest or sharing a story on social media, which hasn't contributed to the goal at all. But what I've been observing a lot is the cynicism and people loving to stick at the cynicism circle, complaining about how the state of the world is, how politics is, how decisions are being made. However, when you face them with the question, so what would you suggest? It's usually a blank answer. What I'm asking here is not to stick in the cynicism cycle. That's the intellectually lazy path to take. Not talking to people that you disagree with because your ideologies differ is the lazy path. We don't do that anymore. And we don't know how to disagree well anymore. We don't know how to engage in conversations that lead to intellectual stimulation, intellectual growth. So what I'm asking here is, cynicism is easy. Hating stuff and complaining all the time, we love to do that. But does it really fulfill your inner drive of like trying to change something? And how would you do it? This comes to my 4th point. Citizen agency is a muscle. What I mean with agency is acting, not being a bystander. All of us have caught these situations of someone falling and running up. Many people like to be the observers. Let's say on a highway, it's an accident that's happening. Many people stop to observe and look what's happening. Not many people stop and try to help. I've been in a situation recently. Calling 112 is such a burden for many people to do. But agency is something that you can train. It's like writing with your non-dominant hand. If you do it long enough and consistently enough, you'll get used to it. So it's about practicing and repeating. And it's not about the big moments, it's about the small moments as well. To take charge, to not wait for someone else to take the lead, no matter how uncomfortable it is. We're all constantly looking left and right for someone else to take action, but maybe it could be you. Because passivity, at the end of the day, at least this is my scare, is the scare of standing at the wrong side of history, by not doing anything, by not standing up, by not acting, because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of the consequences. So I promised myself that I won't stand still, that I won't watch for someone else to take over. I'm going to try to do my part in order to, at the end of the day, tell myself a good conscience that I tried. Number 5. There are lessons learned from extremists. And while this sounds extreme, listen up. What I found very interesting observing the political landscape is how radical groups, extremists, manage to mobilize people in such an effective way. And we're talking about like violence. That, to me, is insane. How did they get normal people to commit such an incredibly brutal act? And if they can do it, can we do it for the good stuff? Mobilizing for care, for taking action. The tools that they're using is identity, ritual, belonging, and purpose. So the question here is, no matter what your call for action is and your purpose or your interest area, what is How can you take these tools in order to mobilize people around you? What I noticed in the climate action sphere that I'm in is that we mainly do it through guilt, shame, and noise. Don't fly, it's bad for the environment. How do you dare to eat meat because it's bad for the environment? So, what kind of conversations can we have instead? How can we mobilize people to care about a subject that's good for the planet? Certain people can do it for very bad things. Why can we not do it for the good stuff? Thinking frameworks. I decided to focus on joy, fun. If something is not fun, I'm not going to do it. So any project that I start or look into, it needs to be fun. Just nice to spend time with. At least this is my requirement, maybe inspires some of you to also look from that angle at your work or the projects that you're involved in. My final thinking framework that I would like to share with you, that I've realized in many different conversations with friends, with colleagues, with politicians all around, is that at the end of the day, it's not about succeeding, but about raising the odds. We all enter a game or enter a competition or a job interview with the aim of succeeding. But for one person to succeed, 100 people need to have tried exactly the same thing. This holds for anything in the world. This is just statistics of success. And we need to understand, I'm not entering this game or this cause that I care for because I want to win. I'm entering to raise the odds for someone else to get inspired and then get a little bit further ahead of me. It's not about me winning, it's about us reaching the goal. And I wish and I hope that more people would internalize that. That's why me and a number of friends since November last year have thought of this crazy idea of discussing about our own political party. We hate what's going on. We're all frustrated and stuck in the cynicism circle. So we were like, okay, how would we do it? And not that this is going to succeed. Maybe, most probably it's not. Statistically, it's not. However, we're coming together since November once a month, every month, same time, same day, to discuss about how we would do things. We shifted our conversations from the problem space to the solution space. How to mobilize people, what topics that we care about, how we would solve the problems, how to talk about pragmatic idealism in a way that touches and brings people on board. And just these conversations have been extremely intellectually stimulating, very difficult, and very complex as well, but intellectually stimulating. And what I've noticed at least is that over the last few months, these lessons and conversations have taught me so much about how I act in work, how I mobilize my colleagues. So while we're doing stuff, is it next to our work or in our work to act and bring people on board and act for a cause? Think about it. How can you make it fun? How can you dare to risk without necessarily needing to win? How can you start to raise the odds? I want to read you a quote to finalize, which was the reason why I quit my job and I'm endeavoring a completely different path. Never doubt that a small group of committed, thoughtful citizens can change the world. Indeed, that's the only thing that ever has. Margaret Mead. If you look at all the revolutions in history, and if you look at all the changes that have been taking place technologically, it's been started through a group of thoughtful, committed citizens, especially if we talk about revolutions here. If we look around the world, I'm sure all of us are frustrated, lost, don't know what to do, and I've been there as well. But the question is not to point, or the ask is not to point our fingers at other people and look at our politicians to take actions. It's been always a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens that have. History can teach us lessons on how to do it. I today shared some thinking frameworks with you to break out of your own cage that's mental of not taking action. With that, I would like to thank you for your attention. I hope there are a couple of things that you could take away. Thanks for your mercy of pulling this up this morning. and very much looking forward to interacting with you. My friends are over here as well. If anyone is interested about the political movement idea that we're talking about, please raise your hands. We can talk to us. And thanks a lot.